in the first quarter of 2017, concerned Ethiopian professionals have come up with their first ever publication named Discourse. It's a quarterly journal debating African issues, mainly of the Horn of Africa. Having gone through the journal, ABC has desired to talk to the editor and managing editor to learn the evolution of their first fruit and what it offers to shape the current Horn of African affairs. Hello everyone, this is Addis Dialogue and this is Daniel Kasahun with today's edition. Thank you very much for being with us here at ABC studio, our guests. May you introduce yourself first, please?
Pleased to be here. My name is Daniel Kasahun, and as you mentioned, I'm editor of the Discourse Magazine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail Mnase, managing editor of Discourse. I would like to thank you and ABC on behalf of the whole team of Discourse.
Tell us how the idea of a journal on African affairs does came up. You start first.
Yes, I'd love to go into the history of making this publication. We were just friends and we were just looking at what kind of publications are here that can inspire elite readers around, and we came up with the Foreign Affairs, the well-celebrated magazine that's published in the US, and New Yorker and other publications. And we couldn't come up with any magazine of such level in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is a very big country. The city is, as you know, the city of capital city of Africa and the world. And then the absence of such a publication is really a real gap. And we thought that can we really come up with something like the affairs, the foreign affairs, or similar one, at least in aspiration. Then if we don't attain that quality level first, we can keep on improving and getting there. So it's just started like that.
May you add?
Well, he basically summed it all, but somebody said, if the book you want to read very much is not there, just write it. And we saw this gap and we tried to fill it. That is the genesis of the Discourse Journal.
Okay, Mikhail, you give us highlights of the major articles of your publication.
Right. Apart from the Ethiopia, Eritrea, which is our main focus, we also include the Horn and the Gulf region. There, the interdependence and the historical dynamism there, and the changing, shifting alliances, and also is the nation building in the Ethiopian context, how it progressed. What are the factors shaping the nation building and state building in Ethiopia, which is co-authored by Dada and Mereb, which looks into the trajectories that shaped Ethiopian history and the nation building, and also the South Sudan, which I try to explore. South Sudan is a very strategic country for Ethiopia, and we've seen a lot of tragic events developing after so much hope and promise that was realized after independence, but it quickly deteriorated and now is a regional security problem. So the negotiations, what came after that, and the regional dynamism, and then the interference of the international actors. Also, the diplomatic history of Ethiopia by Ayala Bakri, a very prominent historian. He says that Ethiopia had a very sound, independent foreign policy even in ancient times. So these are some of the articles mentioned.
Let's zoom into one of the hot issues in the Horn of Africa, the case of Ethiopia, Eritrea. which seems your journal's focus area as well. This is in your first article, the case of Ethiopia and Eritrea. In your first article, you mentioned, you suggested a shift of re-examining of a policy perception towards Eritrea. What do you mean by that?
I think it's self-evident. We don't have a good relationship with Eritrea right now. The countries are at standoff and hostile to each other. And these are countries that should not have been in those kinds of situations. We have been at war in 1998, very devastating war, and that itself is very unfortunate. Then overcoming it in the post-war would have been the most logical, sensible thing to do. And these two very fraternal, very close countries, except for political reasons, peoples that should be inhabiting one country, are in a very, very sort of cold war between each other. There's a wall between them, separating them, not politically, but all the interactions, social interactions, cultural separation and the like. So that's worrisome. So the writer, Yosef Gorewot, a very, very unapologetic analyst on the Ethiopian situation, was looking into what went wrong between the two, and he defines it as a waiting game, like a containment policy taken by Ethiopia, and he says it's not working, and it has to be changed. I mean, and Ethiopia he recognizes Ethiopia is the only power that can change that. So it seems like Ethiopia is waiting for, to travel its own half distance, but there is no partner that covers the other half distance. So he is recommending that Ethiopia should take a bold step that deserves by a powerful nation.
How do you see, Mikhail, it's going to be re-examined and readjusted? A policy shift, is this necessary between?
I think there's a wider consensus now that the policy which has been there in place for this much long time need to be revised. And one of them is Yosef Gabrewat, who convincingly says that the game is flawed, it has not worked, and that the longer it is there, it will damage not only Eritrea but also Ethiopia, and mainly Eritrea, because he characterizes this tragic events in Eritrea as a generational genocide. It is a genocide for him, although it doesn't fall to the typical genocide according to the definition of the UN. There's so much death and destruction, so much exodus happening in Eritrea. The youth is being depleted, which is the future of that country, and it's becoming a source of insecurity even for the neighbors. So the longer it's allowed to linger, it's going to damage the interests of both countries, which have a common history, a shared history, and common destiny. And it is also of my conviction that there needs to be a shift.
Yosef Gabriel, the author of Ethiopia and Eritrea, The Waiting Game, he mentioned Eritrea as a sinking ship, and you approved it, and it's published. What are your justifications that Eritrea, is it really a sinking ship now?
Well, it's a kind of metaphor, so it's not about us approving it, it's just bringing it into discourse, and we take responsibility for giving him a chance to appear on our discourse. He takes responsibility for the contents. But some of the things he is concerned about, like which country that's that has a population size of 4 million, maybe less, losing its use so rampantly, is not expected to survive well. And like Michael earlier mentioned, it's a genocide being committed on the use because of the demographic imbalance that's creating in this place. So the issue would be, okay, we know that there is a problem that cannot be sustained anymore. Then let's discourse and discuss about the solutions. That will be the role we wanted to play. And Joseph has come with the sharpest bell of warning. And then we wanted to also others reflect on those.
Why do you think the case of Ethiopia and Eritrea is referred as a waiting game? Who is waiting? Mikhail, please.
I think both are waiting, but who is trying to outweigh the other is the question. And Eritrea is known, the Eritrean regime is known for its,
both are
exploiting.
Both are waiting.
Yes.
For what reason?
Ethiopia's waiting strategy is a kind of containment. It's not proactive, but it is trying to contain the problem inside Eritrea. But as Joseph rightly argues, it's not working because we have seen now it's not peace, and we should not fall short of anything other than peace. The goal should be, the target should be peace, and now we can see that it's no war, no peace, which is not helping the two countries. There is so much plight on both sides. It has effect on the economy. It has effect on the existence. I mean the long tradition of coexistence between the two peoples. Although the two peoples have no enmity, but it is eroding this age-old relations, and we should not let that happen. Therefore, both are waiting, and the longer they wait, other external forces will exploit the situation. Not only against Ethiopia, but also against Eritrea, which is hosting those external forces, because it's not going to be sustainable. Those external forces are forces that want to fish on troubled waters. Therefore, it is up to the stakeholders in both countries to have a deep analysis of this faulty policy, this waiting game, and try to come up with a workable and more sustainable solution.
Data, please.
Yeah, you see, the Ethiopian situation is described as for conventional communication as no war, no peace, but in this sense, it's like a war. There has been very, very intensive hostilities between the two. A lot of good values of relationship between the two peoples are being eroded, and the opportunities are being lost. And like Michael has said, a lot of hostile elements are using exploiting this opportunity of standoff between the two. So the Eritrean regime wants to outsurvive this situation of being a pariah and isolated state, with the endurance that it knows to practice, to have practiced it a lot in its existence. The Ethiopian government hopes containing the Eritrean situation in this manner would bring it into terms to, and then allow situations to set in for normalizing. But this has been a very, very longer than anyone planned to be, and we all have to alarm the bell for a policy change. That's the whole thing. How can you sustain such a conflict, a very costly conflict, for a longer period than this, and then hope to get any different result?
So you mean that Ethiopia's role in this waiting game is puzzling?
As long as there is no clear policy, one can also claim that it is puzzling. But there is a clear consensus that is not a sustainable solution for the problem at hand.
Dada, please.
Yes, he has some examples as well. After the war, for the temporary security zone, for example, to be established within the Eritrean border, 25 kilometers into the Eritrean border. And the Ethiopian government intention was to really put pressure on Eritrea. But that was very perfect policy for the Eritrean government itself, because after sustaining so much damage from the war, from the defeat, then it had to really have a buffer zone with the main enemy, which could have been exerted pressure on regime change or policy change in Eritrea, and then turn its back to other domestic issues without a worry. And why would Ethiopia choose that? Is a very puzzling. And the other thing is, Ethiopia waits for the regime to really see the end of going through the same process and then coming into terms, and it's not happening. And yet there are other issues that the Eritrean government is exploiting. It's a very nocturnal government. It has practiced a lot of sort of contraband activities and non-formal, non-state tactics, and then it's getting a lot of money, some of them very from different very dirty works, and then it's sustaining well, and there is no, the containment policy is not working for the Eritrean government.
So yes. What do you suggest as a better solution or best solution on the case of Ethiopia conflict? Mikhail, please.
I think it is in the interest of both peoples, both Ethiopians and Eritreans, to be at peace. Because they are poor countries, they have a shared history, but the fact that there's no positive development, there's no good neighborliness.
So how do you think both countries can come to the solution?
There are a lot of options and solutions, I'm sure, around, and collecting them, bringing them, and processing them would be the interest of the policymakers. But I would say that I'm so clear that what shouldn't continue is the present status between the two countries.
All right. You're almost to publish your second publication. You're getting ready.
That's right.
What do we get from your second publications? Would you mind mentioning some of the articles that will be included in your second publication?
Very good. And second edition will be even, I think, we're even raising the bar higher than what we had with the first standard. It's going to be about the Nile issue, and the ambition is that we wanted to get Nile in one book.
That's great. Finally, the managing editor may tell us, how do readers can get your publication?
Yeah, we have placed copies in some of the big hotels, also in our office there at Meskel Square. People can come and access them. Soon we will be posting a free copy, a digital copy on our website, which is going to be operational, up and running very soon. Therefore on discourseaffairs.com. And we are also networking with universities, and especially the Addis Ababa University is giving us a gateway so that academics and other interested people would access discourse.